Hey, my name's Thomas Reed and I'm a professional property investor here in Australia. Over the last 4 years, me and my wife have 20x our property portfolio's equity position. Now, I just want to talk about principal place of residence, your home, and how the capital gains tax works on your home. Now, if you have a principal place of residence versus an investment property, the difference between your principal place of residence and your investment property when it comes to sale is the principal place of residence you don't have any tax obligations on when it comes to capital gains. But obviously, when you sell an investment property, you get taxed quite a lot. And when it comes to wealth creation, it can be very if you're playing the flipping game, if you're playing the purchase, renovate, and sell game, doing it with investment properties can put a massive handicap on you versus if you were to do it buying your own home. Now, the point here today is I just wanted to point out the difference in capital growth in different types of assets. Now, super general here, and this is the type of investment I will target is a type of investment that is generally growing at about a 5% growth rate per year. And when I say 5% growth rate per year, I'm not referring to how it fluctuates through market cycles. I'm just referring to what is this property's growth rate per year over a very long time horizon of 30 or 50 years. The properties I invest in as an investor are generally growing at a 5% compounding growth rate per year over 50 to 30 years. Now, if you invest, you may be wondering, why am I purchasing properties that are only producing a 5% compounding growth rate per year over 30 or 50 years? Well, the reason is because I understand market cycles. So whether the property is performing at that rate over 30 years, it doesn't mean it's year after year after year, it's performing at that rate. It might, for a 2 or a 3 or a 5 year period, it might be getting about 20%, 25%, even more compounding growth per year. So I will jump into properties, I will jump into markets where it's showing signs of a boom, it's showing signs of repressed growth. I will purchase those properties, and what happens is they have a huge amount of growth in a short period of time, and I take advantage of that to re-leverage into other properties. Now, it's true, on a long time horizon, if I own those properties, the person who is choosing to buy properties that have a higher compounding growth per year will probably be better off if they want to be a bit more of a passive investor, if they want to be a bit more of a backseat investor, if they're not so active and they don't understand investing as much as I do. But the difference between me buying the properties I buy versus someone that is buying properties that have a higher compounding growth rate is the person that is buying properties that have a higher compounding growth rate. They have to actually supplement, and this is just general again, they actually have to heavily supplement the income of the properties with their money so the property can sustain itself, because it ultimately can't sustain itself. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean, general again, but a property that is maybe getting a 7% compounding growth rate per year, it might cost you, if you're targeting like a $500,000, $600,000 or $700,000 property, it might cost you anywhere from $10,000 or $20,000 of your own money to sustain the purchase of that property until the point, years from the point when you purchase the property, where the rental income has grown enough that the property can service itself, okay? Me, again, I'm buying properties that are at the start of the market cycle, about to have huge amount of capital growth, but over a long period of time, their growth rate is kind of low, right? But why do I do that? I do that because these properties, again, generally have higher rent that is enough to cover the entire cost of ownership and mortgage that that you have to incur to own that property. So what I'm saying is, every time I buy a property, it doesn't cost me any money. Since the first day I've come upon this strategy, I have never forked out money from my own pocket to build or sustain a property in my property portfolio. I pride myself on that, but over a long time horizon, and it allows me to get explosive growth and actively grow my property portfolio, aggressively grow my property portfolio, build a large amount of wealth in a short period of time. But if you flip it over to a long period of time, and if I stop growing, if I stop pushing the property portfolio, the person who buys a property that is a higher compounding growth will be better off. Now, to make it clear how much better off they will be, I'll just give you an example of somewhat of the difference between if you invest $5 million into a property that is compounding at a 5% growth rate per year, and one that is compounding at an 8% growth rate per year, and then one that is compounding at a higher growth rate per year. I just lost myself here, but that's fine. Now, just stay with me here. So if you buy $5 million of property and you wait 50 years and it's compounding at a 50% growth rate per year, you will effectively, and I know these are big numbers, but people don't really comprehend the effect of compounding growth over a long period of time. Like people, I'm just going on a bit of a tangent. People always like, when I tell them this $10 million property will be like $50 million in 20 years, they just say no, it won't. They just say, no, that's not possible. That house in Bondi will not be worth $20 million. They can't, people just cannot comprehend the effect that the currency, the value of our currency is devaluing as time goes on. Asset prices are inflating. They're becoming more expensive at the same time as they're holding their value when compared to currency, right? Moving on. 5% compounding growth rate per year, $5 million asset base. You're going to have $59 million, okay? Great, that sounds like a lot of money. But what would the difference be if you bought a property that was compounding at an 8.5% compounding growth rate per year? Now, that would mean you have a asset base of $295 million per year after 50 years. Okay, so that is almost 4 times, or maybe it's somewhere around 4 times as much, just by having assets, better quality assets over a long period of time. You're 4 timesing your wealth position. Okay, now let's look at where the real magic happens. Now, if you can find a property, and I know obviously how to find a property that is compounding at a very high growth rate per year. I don't invest in them. It's just not part of my strategy yet, but I am aware, okay? I understand where to find them, I understand how to buy them, and I understand the effect it has on the end wealth position. Now, if you're able to find a property that is compounding at a 12% growth rate per year after a 50-year time, and just to give you a hint, these are the type of scarce properties that have views that you can get nowhere else in the country, right? So a property that is compounding at a 12% growth rate per year, it might be a headland property next to a reserve in the most sought after beach in Australia with 360-degree beach views, right? You might be in Bondi, it might be in Tamarama, it might be in Bronte, it might be in Curl, it might be in Pump. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? These properties are very scarce, and there's very few properties that can have the same effect as these properties. But this property compounding at 12% growth rate per year, And just to recap, the 5% compounding growth rate per year with 5 mil invested, you're getting a $59 million end value. You invest $5 million in a 12% compounding house per year. After 50 years, it's going to be ready for it. It's going to be worth $1.45 billion. Okay? Doesn't even sound real. It is. I assure you, it's real. But that's the difference, right? And just to make it clear, that's the investment strategy I'm currently using. There's an investment strategy out there that's not for everyone, but there's and I will get there. That if I was to invest in that instead, it would give me a 36 times on my money in terms of wealth outcome. Okay, just that one decision. Instead of buying a property that's compounding at 5% growth rate, I could buy one that's compounding at a 12% growth rate, and the end result would mean me 36 times richer than I would otherwise be with $1.45 million in 50 years. Now, a lot of people think wealthy people are evil, like, they've got so much money, they must be evil, they must be doing evil things. You don't need to be evil to understand this. Like, you don't need to be evil to understand how capitalism works. You don't need to be evil to understand how property investing works. You don't need to be evil to understand how currency works. You just need to build your knowledge, right? And understanding that doesn't make you a bad person. People, like anyone that understands this, really understands this, will do it, right? There is no reason not to do this. There is no reason to think there's something bad about understanding that when you look at one home to the other, that one's gonna grow far more than that one, and it's ultimately going to make me far more wealthy than that one. And that's just knowledge, okay? If you really wanna, jack it up, if you really wanna build your wealth to crazy levels, you'll leverage this. You won't buy one property, you buy 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, anyone can do this, and properties that are performing at a higher growth rate, they don't necessarily need to be super expensive. Okay, it could be somewhere that is not yet discovered. Like you could buy a property with a beachfront location in an area where people aren't yet, it's not yet developed, or people aren't knowing about it yet. Okay, but I'm not saying it works like that every time, but there's potential opportunities out there like this. And you can, when you're investing, when it comes to investing here in 2026, you can still buy properties, invest in properties with low money, no money. You can buy properties for $300,000 today. And as an investor, you have to understand different properties and how they function in your portfolio. If you have to start investing in properties like I do, that are producing only a 5% compounding growth rate per year, that's fine. You can just build up from there and ultimately end up to the point where you're investing in blue chip assets. Right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.